from the studios in beautiful Oceanport, New Jersey. Welcome to the biggest and greatest podcast ever. I'm your host, Ray K. Hey guys, another Catching Up with Ray K episode. Just got back from New York, met with Tiki Barber. Had an exciting day there. I want to get this out tonight. That's why I'm putting this. It's great to have a guy like Tiki. He has a great face for like Time Magazine, Fortune Magazine. And it's interesting being on a first name basis with like a legend like that. Real good guy. I want to talk about two things. One is this Consumer Fraud Act in New Jersey. I'm actually a victim of it, believe it or not. It's going to work out in the end, but I learned a ton, which I want to pass along. And I want to talk about the Beatles' influence and the importance of them. I haven't heard anybody put it in a great way yet. I'm going to try to do it in an ad lib after this. But we put up a pool. It's all ready to go. Looks good. And we had a guy do the pavers because you need the pavers around the pool. And he did some of the sod too because, the trucks rip up the grass when they bring, the stuff to build the pool. So I got a few quotes. A couple guys were really high, and I meet this guy recommended. So he gives me, I'm not going to give any names, even though as long as I hear you're truthful, you could talk about anything you want as long as you're telling the truth. But I'm not going to give the guy's name anyway. So he comes in, he gives me a verbal $24,000. This is that much, that's that much, that's that much. Okay, that's lower than the other guys. I said, that sounds good to me. And then he gives me this text on a contract that says 30,000. So I said, that's not good because we said 24. So anyway, he's at 27 and then you're not doing coping. So, okay, so it's 24. Okay. Now here's where it gets interesting. No written agreement. Remember that, no written agreement. So I'm shopping. So I got a guy that's down to 22 and all of a sudden I get a text from the guy the night before because we're starting tomorrow. So I'm like, what the heck's this? I got nothing written. I'm still sort of negotiating. So I said, you know what, let's let the guy start because that thing's been delayed so long. We just want to get the pool going. Summer's already underway. So he comes the next day and, starts doing the pavers, So he told me it would be 4 days to do everything. Well, it took about 31 days. And there were a couple things he messed up on. One was, there was mud in the pool because he didn't do the sod correctly. And it pushed all the dirt into mud after on a torrential rain. And me and my wife, it took us a day and a half to get the mud out. So picture that scene. You got a blue pool and all of a sudden it's black, because of the mud that's in the pool. I'm sure it's not too good for the filter system, to get that mud out of there, but we got it out. We soldiered on and we got it out. Then there was huge puddles after torrential rain around 7 by 9 feet. And it was like 3-inch puddles. I'm like, now this isn't right. And then the sod in the front was like a lumpy. It was like he just didn't even grade it. He just put it over where the trucks came. So I'm like, okay, this isn't good either. So I tell him to fix the puddle, which we'll see. We haven't had rain since, so we're still kind of, the jury's out on that still. So he raised he lowered the levels, I think it was, and put a drainage in. So we'll see if that works, or maybe the pavers weren't graded right. Who knows? But he says that it should work. And then I find out that the guy's committed like 5 acts of violations of the Consumer Law Act, consumer fraud. One is there's no contract, so there's like 4 things right there, and there's no start end date. There's no details on anything. The guy never shows me an insurance thing, so for all I know, he doesn't even have insurance. He tells me it's going to be 4 days. It's 31 days. We have the problems with the issues with the pavers and the sod, and he doesn't give me. Well, I said that he doesn't give me the insurance thing, and he doesn't give me the warranty on the pavers, which is another violation. You got to, before you do it, you got to give the homeowner the warranty. So if something happens to the pavers, you could, you got the guarantee. So anyway, so he has no written agreement, and I'm like, what's going on? So, lawyer says that, hey, you could literally pay this guy nothing, But if you go, I wouldn't do that. But if you go to the court's going to know he did some work. So you must agree to something because I did let him work. And then they have to go by what the pavers cost, and they have their little calculation. Now, because it's consumer fraud, which is like a slam dunk thing, this guy has to pay 3 times the damages. So the damages could be like the puddle, maybe that mud in the pool, and the stupid thing in the sod in the front that he later claimed that he didn't agree to grade the front, which is bizarre because he knows it's like probably a $6,000 or $8,000 job. So if you go 3 times all that, you're up to like probably $36,000. Plus, he pays my legal fees. So the consumer fraud in New Jersey is really strong for the homeowner. The key is the written contract. You really got to get it. And this got really messed up. I told myself, I'm not gonna go there. Because if I did there, he'd pay me money for the thing. I said, I just want to work this thing out. And he was higher than it was. He's claiming he doesn't have to do the front lawn. And then when I brought out the bomb of, hey, my lawyer says you committed 5 acts of consumer fraud, he turned a little bit white. And I said, I want a 10% discount off the 24 for the mud in the pool, the pavers. I got to get a guy to do this stupid thing in the front now because you didn't do it. And he basically said, whatever you think's fair, So that's sort of where we left it. It looks like a good job. Just the front, is lumpy sod, which we could fix, and I'll find someone to fix it. So we're just enjoying the pool now. And another thing, there's no written contract, so the guy could not. There's a huge, powerful tool that home improvement people have, and it's called a mechanic lien or a construction lien, which means you could get a lien on someone's house if there's a lawsuit as it's taking place, which means they can't sell the house however long that lawsuit takes, which could be a year, 2 years, even 3 years. So then you're kind of stuck, So that's a powerful tool, for negotiation for the other side, from the workers. But you don't have a written contract, then you can't get one of these things. So this guy didn't even have that, And I said, look, I want to part friends. I don't want to be a pain in the neck. Let's just work this thing out. And it looks like we will. And it looks like it's going to have a happy ending, So I learned a lot about consumer fraud in New Jersey just on that one incident. So I'm going to pass that along to anybody out there. All you need is one incident, and now I'm an expert. I mean, I could be a lawyer on this now, going through the thing. And some lawyers don't even know what I know about this. So it's just a fascinating situation when you go through it, and experience means a lot. So anyway, happy ending on that, though. So I like to, I'm glad to report that. The second thing, and I want to wrap up after this, is my love for the Beatles, and why are the Beatles so popular and great? And I just have never heard anybody explain it right. And I'm going to give it a shot on a total ad lib at this very minute. I say the reason why they're so great is because, it's the usual stuff. They had the innovation. They worked 5 hard years before they made it overnight, as they say, So they worked hard. They came from nothing. They came from a blue-collar Liverpool upbringing, totally blue-collar, poor, and they had love of American music, and they used that love of American music to learn the craft. They played the cover band. They were a great cover band, like in the Cavern, 60, 61. They realized they had to, start their own songs, which was like sort of a breakthrough. Buddy Holly did it, which they were influenced by. So they start doing their songs. And then they start getting hits. They needed the recording contract, which they fought for and they got. They created a lot of their own luck. And people say luck, but they're creating it. They had a good manager that was behind them. He made mistakes. Brian Epstein. They got George Martin, who was a great. He was like called the fifth Beatle, because of his producing abilities. So they got a great team, and it's a tight little team. They got McCartney. Great. They got Lennon, who was the leader of the early years. They got, then they had George, they were all together when they were 15, 16, and George was 14, I think. And then they bring Ringo in to complete the whole thing. So it just, the foursome, they looked right. I think the look's important, just like if Elvis didn't look the way he looked, I don't think he'd be as big, as great as the sound was. I think the look's important. They had the look, they had the chemistry, they've been together all the years, and now they started writing hit songs. They had the genius of the two different types of composers and guys. I mean, they were best friends. So they had it all going. I mean, that combination of Lennon and McCartney was just so dynamic, and they were so opposite but great, and they were best friends too. So there's nothing like having your best friend work with you. So they start developing the craft. They start getting better. Every year they start creating better songs. They go in Sullivan. They get the Beatlemania. They could have quit after 65 and they would have been unbelievably great, So they make movies, probably the best movie, Hard Day's Night, for a rock thing. They're innovating like crazy. They're influencing everybody. Most people throughout the 60s and 70s were influenced by the Beatles, even up till today. I mean, Billy Joel watches him on Ed Sullivan, now he gets into music. So the profound effect you can't even measure, of all the music they created by people being influenced by them. So every year they get better. 66, 67, they start getting into the psychedelic music. 68, the White Album, the innovation of the covers, the personalities were huge. Each one had a personality. Each one had an appeal to a different type of audience. Each one of them was different, but they were sort of like the same. It was just such a one in a billion type situation to come around the time they had, right after Kennedy gets killed. They come in '64 February, right when the nation sort of needs. I know it's a philosophy, but I think it is true. You get into you February after the January thing, you got February, and now the Beatles hit. And you just knew from I've seen people interview that they were going to be here for a long time. So they had all that going. They have a perfect 63 to 69. They probably broke up at the right time because they peaked. They even peaked in Abbey Road. They made the greatest covers, with Sgt. Pepper and the Abbey Road Zebra Crossing, which is probably the biggest landmark tourist landmark in London. And they break up. It was just perfect. It wasn't like they went another 20 years and had like 3 hit songs after the 20. They had all the hit songs, all the albums. They make, I think, at least 2 albums a year. They have 4 hit singles a year. They're working continually. Maybe they took about 4 months off in early '66. Then they went away in '68 with the Maharishi, which is more breakthrough because they were into transcendental meditation. I mean, they're innovating all over the place. And I think for all those reasons, and then there's still that unexplainable reason that we just can never put our finger on, along with the timing of it, that the chemistry of 4 guys that meet perfectly in a perfect atmospheric timing situation is something that you can't measure in human terms. And that's why I think the Beatles were the top pop group and probably top musical phenomenon of all time. Better than Mozart, better than Beethoven, all those guys. Plus they're singing. They're not just composing the music. And when you hear their songs in instrumentals, it really is amazing. It's almost like great nursery rhymes. So I'm glad I chose them as my favorite group. And I think that's it. I mean, that was my spontaneous coverage of the Beatles. My quick hit and miss. I'm just going to say words and just say what comes to mind here, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Moon full. I'm going to go full with Moon. Okay. Wyoming. I'm going to go kind of barren and plain is my impression of Wyoming. I don't know why. It just is. Okay. Minnesota Vikings. Great in the 70s. They were great in the 70s. Fran Tarkenton. I'll go Sir Fran. All-Star game. Baseball All-Star game. I think in 1933, the first one where Babe Ruth, of all people, hit the first home run in Major League Baseball. And it's probably one of the few. Hockey, they probably try too, but when you go basketball and football, they don't try. Baseball, they try. I mean, you have to try. I mean, you're not going to lob it up there for the guys to hit. So that's probably one of the true all-star games that guys actually try, So that's another reason why I love baseball. Let me think of some other word associations. Favorite car. I'll go with the one I'm driving, which is a Jeep Cherokee. I like being high on the road. I don't like being too low. And I'll give one more. If I had to meet one person tomorrow of everyone in the world, who would it be? Other than Jesus, who would I meet? I'm going to read. You know what? I'm in an Elvis mood. I'll meet Elvis Presley tomorrow. Someone's going to me. I'm going to meet like the 1968 Elvis. Which I think he was his, sort of his prime. When he sort of quote unquote the comeback special era. When he just was on the cusp of coming back again, and he looked pretty cool. And I would have loved to talk to him about a lot of stuff. So that's my guy. If I had to meet anyone in the world tomorrow. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. We learned a lot. And, I hope I made it clear why the Beatles are the greatest group of all time. So, anyway, until next time, we'll see what comes up, and I will catch you then. This is Catching Up with Ray.